everyone, I'm Mrs. Calhoun, and this is Calhoun Corner. Let's get started. If I asked a group of students to take a few minutes and journal what happened at lunch yesterday, I would get a bunch of different answers. We would still be talking about the same time frame, the same place, and similar events, but what would change would be the perspective. This is similar to the Bible. When we read the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, we get a different perspective on Jesus' life through each of the Gospel writers. They emphasize different things, tell some of the same stories in a different way or a different order. There are two creation accounts in Genesis, which sometimes confuses people. The first chapter was written by God and was given to Adam. Adam then, following God's example, wrote his own account of creation. He tells us about specific rivers, which were used as landmarks. He introduces two special trees, the tree of knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life. As we'll see, this tree of life is very different from an evolutionist tree of life. Adam tells us that he has a job to do, and that's to tend the garden and name the animals, both of which are scientific jobs, by the way. And Adam tells us how he meets his wife. Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 are telling us about the same events, but from two different perspectives. We can see that in the language that they use. For example, God calls himself Adonai, but Adam calls him Yahweh Adonai, or Lord God, which is how we typically translate it in English. So the Genesis 1, it is Elohim, and it's more of a cosmic view. It's from above. Humans are created together. So we see God says male and female, he created them. So he's not distinguishing how he made Adam and Eve. Then when we look at Genesis chapter 2, we have Yahweh Elohim, the Lord God. This is more of a human's perspective. We're down on the ground here when we're seeing things. And instead of human beings being created last as a group, we have woman being created last. But they both talk about one God. They both talk about the goodness of creation, and they both state the dignity for men and women. Genesis chapter 1 focused on the first 6 days, which, by the way, are taken as 6 24-hour days. The Hebrew word yom is used, which when clarified with evening and morning is always understood to be a 24-hour day. In the beginning of chapter 2, we have the completion of the week with holy rest, not because God gets tired, but because we human beings get tired. And if you think about it, we are the only creatures that do this. Cats don't stop catching mice, deer don't stop wandering for food, chickens certainly don't stop squawking. This is a specific provision for mankind. So here we have Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 to 4. Thus the heavens and the earth and all their array were completed. Since on the seventh day God was finished with the work he had been doing, he rested on the seventh day from all the work he'd undertaken. So it's not like he lays down and takes a nap. He's not creating anything new. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work he had done in creation. Such is the story of the heavens and the earth at their creation. This provision is so important that God even generates a commandment that reminds us of the seventh day. In 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, but on the seventh day he rested. That is why the Lord has blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. And that's in Genesis chapter 20, verse 11. We should also remember that in Exodus chapter 24, verse 12, it says God wrote the commandments on stone tablets. So this is similar to God giving Adam Genesis chapter 1. More than one Adam and Eve. Sometimes you may hear arguments that there were more than one set of parents, but the Catholic Church rejects polygenism. It clearly states that Adam and Eve were real people and that they are the ancestors of all human beings. The Church also teaches that Eve was created from Adam's body. How Adam meets his wife takes up half of chapter 2. There are 25 verses, and if we divide up the verses into categories, we see that Adam's marriage is a huge part of the story. It mentions resting on the seventh day. That's 4 verses. Adam gives us a quick description of God making him from the dust of the earth, also 4 verses. All the amazing things God made for Adam, 4 verses. The geography gets 5 verses. Adam's job only gets 2 verses, but God creating Eve gets 8 verses. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 20, the man gave names to all the cattle, all the birds of the air, and all the wild animals, but none proved to be a suitable partner for the man. In a way, God is showing Adam how special his wife is going to be. He's allowing Adam to look so he will appreciate her more. So he's looking around at all the other animals and he's noticing that there's something missing there. Genesis chapter 2, verse 21. So the Lord God cast a deep sleep on the man, and while he was asleep, he took out one of his ribs and closed up its place with flesh. The Lord God then built up into a woman the rib that he had taken from the man. God creates Adam's wife from a part of him. This is significant on many levels. For one, God takes out a rib, and what does a rib do? It protects the heart. It is an essential part of the body. It's in the middle. God does not take Eve from Adam's head, which might signify dominance, but she isn't taken out of his foot either, which might indicate that she was subordinate to him. It is also significant because when a man and woman get married and consummate their union through intercourse, this is the two becoming one flesh. I also want to point out that sometimes people will say, well, why don't men have one less rib? Well, genetically, he doesn't lose a rib. So when they have children, genetically, nothing has changed. Just like if you lost your foot in battle or something, your children will still have feet, presumably. In fact, going back to to become one flesh, Jesus uses this language in Mark chapter 10, verses 6 through 8. Eve coming from Adam's rib and then back to him in a complementary way illustrates that the two were intended to be one. They were intended to be whole, and through marriage, this oneness is possible. So Mark chapter 10, verses 6 through 8 says, "But from the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. For this reason, a man should leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two should become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh." Adam comes to the very conclusion when he says, "This one at last," so we can hear this joy in his soul here, his heart. "This one at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. This one should be called woman, for out of her man this one has been taken." Lastly, I want to point out that God presents Eve to Adam. Even though she is specifically designed for Adam, God still offers her without forcing them together. In this way, Eve and the majority of women in the world are going to be conscious of appearances, at least on average, more than men. Youth and beauty is very important to females in a way that is not especially the case for men. We could delve deeper into that, but for now, let's just leave it there. In our next lecture, we're going to look at Adam and Eve again, and we'll try to answer the question, why create a forbidden tree? As always, if this video has helped you in some way, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. God bless.